Time to light the match for the burning truth with Casey Hendrickson.
Good evening. Today, our fellow citizens, our way of life, our very freedom came under attack in a series of deliberate and deadly terrorist acts. The victims were in airplanes or in their offices, secretaries, businessmen and women, military and federal workers, moms and dads, friends and neighbors. Thousands of lives were suddenly ended by evil, despicable acts of terror. The pictures of airplanes flying into buildings, fires burning, huge structures collapsing, have filled us with disbelief, terrible sadness, and a quiet, unyielding anger. These acts of mass murder were intended to frighten our nation into chaos and retreat. But they have failed. Our country is strong. A great people has been moved to defend a great nation. Terrorist attacks can shake the foundations of our biggest buildings, but they cannot touch the foundation of America. These acts shatter steel, but they cannot dent the steel of American resolve. America was targeted for attack because we're the brightest beacon for freedom and opportunity in the world, and no one will keep that light from shining. Today, our nation saw evil, the very worst of human nature, and we responded with the best of America, with the daring of our rescue workers, with the caring for strangers and neighbors who came to give blood and help in any way they could. Immediately following the first attack, I implemented our government's emergency response plans. Our military is powerful, and it's prepared. Our emergency teams are working in New York City and Washington, D.C. to help with local rescue efforts. Our first priority is to get help to those who have been injured and to take every precaution to protect our citizens at home and around the world from further attacks. The functions of our government continue without interruption. Federal agencies in Washington, which had to be evacuated today, are reopening for essential personnel tonight and will be open for business tomorrow. Our financial institutions remain strong, and the American economy will be open for business as well. The search is underway for those who are behind these evil acts. I've directed the full resources of our intelligence and law enforcement communities to find those responsible and to bring them to justice. We will make no distinction between the terrorists who committed these acts and those who harbor them. I appreciate so very much the members of Congress who have joined me in strongly condemning these attacks. And on behalf of the American people, I thank the many world leaders who have called to offer their condolences and assistance. America and our friends and allies join with all those who want peace and security in the world, and we stand together to win the war against terrorism. Tonight, I ask for your prayers for all those who grieve, for the children whose worlds have been shattered, for all whose sense of safety and security has been threatened. And I pray they will be comforted by a power greater than any of us, spoken through the ages in Psalm 23. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil, for you are with me. This is a day when all Americans from every walk of life unite in our resolve for justice and peace. America has stood down enemies before, and we will do so this time. None of us will ever forget this day, yet we go forward to defend freedom and all that is good and just in our world. Thank you. Good night, and God bless America.
That was the address from President George W. Bush on 9/11, the evening of. Of course, we remember 9/11 today on the anniversary of it. The further we get away from it, the harder it is to actually keep it in the public's foresight, if you will, and keeping the whole memory of what happened alive. I got a message today from somebody, and I always remind everybody, make sure you do a search today on the internet on who is Ben Ghazi. You need to figure out who that guy is. And somebody had mentioned that they had posted on Facebook. Now, of course, Facebook has been banning people, including myself, for like nothing. But they said that every 9/11 they share a remembrance for 9/11 2001 and then 9/11 2012, which is the Benghazi attack, in which Hillary Clinton left our people to die on a rooftop. But they have this new feature on Facebook where you can see the metrics on your personal post. This used to be a feature exclusively for pages. And Facebook is not showing this post. When you post something, if you've got a decent following, and this person does, but you have a decent following and nobody reacts to the post on 9/11, that's unusual. And so they looked at the metrics and they actually found out that the post had not been shown to a single person. Not one person was shown this post. And of course, they're wondering if maybe it has to do with the fact that they put Benghazi in there as well. And honestly, I would not be surprised. It is Facebook, after all. You can't remind everybody about what happened in 2012 on 9/11. And you can't remind everybody about how your government, Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama, decided that they were going to lie to everybody and say it was a YouTube video that did it, and then spend millions of dollars in taxpayer money apologizing to the Muslim world about the YouTube video that did not cause the attack in Benghazi. Well, I guess at this point, what difference does it make? Am I right? In November of 2009, I wrote something, and occasionally people ask me to bring it up. Nobody has this time around. It's just an old thing that I wrote, which isn't written very well. But it was about 9/11, even though it was in November of 2009. On 9/11 this year, I was filling in for my morning host on KXNT's Morning Source. I usually tell the story of someone who was a victim of the terrorist attacks, but the morning drive format doesn't permit me such a segment. For many years, what I would do is I would actually play you the phone calls. I would play you the audio from inside cockpits and things like that. I don't do that so much anymore. This year, I would have come up with something new to convey the importance of those events on our society. I would have to come up with something new. As always, I hope for a teachable moment. But what to say? I did the first couple of hours of the program with normal morning drive topics and waited for most of my audience to be awake before addressing the day's anniversary. I had several ideas about what I was going to say in my head, but none of them seemed to satisfy me. Sometimes in radio, you do your best work when you haven't prepared at all, and your worst when you have. That's why the most prepared hosts sometimes that you hear every single day, sometimes they're not very good. For most of my relevant life, I lived by a few different credos, the most important of which is, all that is necessary for evil to succeed is that good men do nothing. It's a quote from Edmund Burke. It served me well over the years, and I knew it wouldn't fail me now. As I discussed the events of the day and how evil succeeded, I had an epiphany. Evil did succeed that day because good men did nothing. Not because bad men allowed it to happen, or because we were caught off guard. It happened because good men did nothing. Society teaches us that there is good and bad people. That's it. A zealous few try to preach that a gray middle ground exists. It doesn't. Society has been too narrow in its teachings of right and wrong, good and bad. Furthermore, they've been too generous with bestowing the title of hero. So what is a hero? What is a villain, for that matter? Time to open my trusty dictionary. I know my president says that I shouldn't. And that was a rib back to Barack Obama saying that you shouldn't open a dictionary to look at the definition of words when he was changing the definition of words. Before I found the definitions I was looking for, I pondered how could the dictionary possibly define such abstract concepts as hero and villain? You see, heroes and villains are not the same as good and bad. They are their own entities. Good people are rarely heroes. Bad people don't always rise to the level of villain. I just can't bring myself to call a petty thief a villain. I'm sorry. Heel maybe, but not a villain. When I was in the Army, I was called both, frequently. I was no villain and could easily dismiss such nonsense. When I was called a hero, I became very uncomfortable. I believed I was a good person doing an important job, but I had done nothing that warranted my being called a hero. I didn't deserve such praise. Society says I'm a hero for just that reason, that I don't see myself as such or seek praise. In fact, society has many definitions of what a hero is. It's not that society has perverted yet another word's definition, as it so frequently does. It's that hero really is too abstract to properly define for all circumstances. So is its counterpart. So what is a hero and what is a villain? Some say a hero is someone who does a dangerous job to help others. Most hero heaping is bestowed upon the military, police, firefighters, etc. Can you really be called a hero based on your employment in a dangerous field and accepting risk? Can it really be that easy? I suppose this could be one of those I'll know it when I see it moments, but doesn't the word hero deserve more than that? All arbitrary definitions that society may have don't mean a thing. Only the wisdom contained in my dictionary matters. Hero. It goes through the mythological creatures, etc. The principal male character in a literary or dramatic work, the central figure in an event, period, or movement, a mythological or legendary figure, often of divine descent, endowed with great strength or ability, an illustrious warrior, a man admired for his achievements and noble qualities, one that shows great courage. Wow, how very vague of you, Websters. Really, the two definitions that apply are one that shows great courage and an object of extreme admiration and devotion. So they seem a bit watered down. Do they seem a bit watered down to you? Great courage is no doubt a trait of a hero, but a person can show great courage without it rising to the level of heroism. I do that when I do any electrical work in the house, and I'm afraid I didn't cut the right breaker. Extreme admiration and devotion seems to fit society's behavior towards a hero perfectly. Can that mean anything that they admire or are devoted to is now a hero? Seems weak to me. The dictionary is just as vague for a villain, an uncouth person, a bore, a deliberate scoundrel or criminal, a character in a story or a play that opposes the hero, one blamed for particular evil or difficulty. Come on, you got to work with me here. Common criminals are not worthy of the title of villain. Uncouth means strange and clumsy, and what is a particular evil? The only thing that fits is that they are the ones who oppose the hero. So to be able to properly define a villain, I must properly define hero, a task so tough Webster's dictionary can't even do it with any conviction. So I submit to you that a hero is defined as a good person who acts. A good person who does something, most often to prevent the success of evil. That is a hero. A person who acts most often to prevent the success of evil. As I discussed 9/11 that morning, the concept of what a hero was clear. Only people who spring into action on behalf of good, with little regard for themselves, are called heroes. That became my message that morning, and I asked my audience if they were merely good or if they were heroes. Were they going to be good people who did something? Or were they going to allow evil to succeed? Speaking of evil, what about defining villain? That's the beauty of defining a hero. We now have the definition of the villain as well. A villain is someone who acts in opposition to the hero in order to ensure the success of evil. And with that, I leave you with some parting questions. Are you good or bad? Are you a hero or villain? Will you allow evil to succeed? Or will you be the good person that does something? I think what we saw last night on that debate stage made that pretty damn clear. More coming up. You're tuned into The Burning Truth. I was just saying, like, hide your cats and hide your dogs. Morgan is, like, freezing, and she can't regulate her temperature today. It's, like, either really hot or really cold. And she's got this big old blanket on. She's walking around like she's a refugee. Just hide those cats and dogs. I don't know. You from Haiti? No. You look like you could be from Haiti. I'm just wondering, because I don't want to judge what a Haitian looks like. That would be wrong. I would never do that, Morgan. I would never judge what a Haitian looks like. So one of the things that came up in we'll call it a debate, I guess, for the lack of better terms, it was a giant waste of time. If you missed the analysis of it in the first hour of the program, Trump didn't lose. Anybody who says otherwise is really not an expert in any of this. It wasn't his best day. There's no doubt about that. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to pretend that he dominated or anything like that. He didn't. He had the one viral moment where she interrupted him and he quoted her in, hey, I'm speaking. And that was the only viral moment. Like, she didn't have any viral moments. She came off as unlikable by a lot of the independent, undecided voters that were surveyed about this. She did not answer any questions. This was something that was even mentioned numerous times on left-wing networks, that she was able to avoid answering any serious questions at all, which, in the middle of everything that's going on, is not going to be something that is going to go over very well with the undecided voters. So the real question is, did he sway any undecided voters to his side? And I don't think he did. Did she sway any undecided voters to her side? And I don't think that she did. So I think it's essentially a wash. I don't really think that there's any benefit to what happened there. But the abortion thing came up because she kept lying about the 2025 thing, which, of course, Trump is disavowed and is not involved in. But she went ahead and she said that he would go ahead and ban abortion and all of that other stuff. And there was a moment there where there's no state where a child born alive can be killed. That's not true. How many states have no defined limit on abortion, Morgan? Any idea? The answer is 8. 8 states. You have 18 states that allow abortions after viability, and you have a further 4 states which could allow abortion before and slightly after viability. There are 21 states that allow abortion before viability. Most of the country allows abortion after viability, folks. Got more coming up. You're tuned into The Burning Truth.
The Burning Truth with Casey Hendrickson.
Yeah, we got an update on the Allen County prison population situation. The American Civil Liberties Union of Indiana will not file a prisoner release order in light of the Allen County Jail seeing a steady decline of inmates in recent months, according to court documents. And again, we how many times did we do an update on this story? It feels like 3 or 4 times, right, Morgan? Where it's like the population was way under what the ACLU was saying was the threshold. And they just kept pressing ahead with it. And of course, they kept asking the question, like, why do they keep pressing ahead with it? It's under the threshold. It's under the threshold. And they're like, it's too close to the threshold. Okay, but it's under it. So why do you keep pushing forward on it? On Wednesday, Allen County Sheriff Troy Hirschberger told the ACLU of Indiana, filed status reports in federal court regarding a current county jail and the new one planned for Meyer Road. Now, according to Hirschberger's update, progress on the new jail has been stalled until the Indiana Tax Court issues an opinion on a challenge from a group of citizens who are disputing that project. We talked about that previously. Some of them even reached out to me with their side of things, and we may end up having them on the show, too, as things progress to provide their point of view. In the meantime, data provided in Wednesday's status reports show the average inmate population has dropped by nearly 100 inmates since May. The average daily population of the Allen County Jail from August 9th to September 10th was 647 inmates. Hirschberger also noted that the Allen County Sheriff's Department has worked to hire 8 confinement officers since August 1st, but due to their employees leaving the department, the number of staff members has been essentially unchanged. Now, that's a whole separate thing. And this is a statewide issue. Corrections officers in this state are not compensated appropriately. And you don't hear me say that a lot about government workers, but that has been the case in Indiana for as long as I have been here. It is a county by county issue that I consistently run in everywhere that this show broadcasts. And it is something that I'm constantly hearing from law enforcement leaders is a problem. You know, they want to have more people in these roles, but they can't get them in these roles because they pay about as much as going and working at a Target. So I don't know, do you go work at a Starbucks and Target and make lattes for people, or do you have an inmate trying to chew your face off? Which one are you picking? Guess it depends on your personality type. The ACLU said that the jail is exceeding capacity, and the organization will still keep that option on the table if the jail population spikes. Okay, but it's not exceeding capacity. It hasn't been exceeding capacity for a while now. Why do they keep I know why they keep saying that, because it's the ACLU and they suck. But it's like, it's seriously, like I was gone for 2 weeks. I think the previous report we did was, a month before that, Morgan? So it's been at least, a month and a half? And it was way under then. And that was like the second status report I had given you where it was underneath. So the ACLU is always still exceeding capacity, except it's not. That's the issue. It isn't. Yet they continue to make it an issue. State and local officials, tell me if this sounds familiar. State and local election officials from across the country today warning that problems with the nation's mail delivery system threaten to disenfranchise voters in the upcoming presidential election. Does that sound familiar? Does anyone? Listen, I am going to repeat what Dan Bongino has been telling you for months. I know that I've said it. I know that others have said it. I've said it going back before 2016. Okay. I agree with many of you that Election Day should be one day, national holiday, open all day, go vote, and then eliminate possibilities of fraud. I agree with you. That is not the reality that we live in. You have to fight the battle where the battlefield is. You know, you don't get to, we have to take that city over there and then post up on a hill that is completely irrelevant to that strategy. The reality is that mail-in ballots are right now the dominant force in deciding elections, which means you should probably embrace them and then verify that your vote was counted. And if it wasn't, then you go in person on Election Day and you cast it. Because if you don't, you are going to run the risk of another Arizona issue where everybody shows up on Election Day and magically in very red districts, the machines don't work, or the paper is wrong, or the marker is the wrong shade, or whatever it is. The reason I was talking about redefining heroes and villains, Kamala Harris, the flapping throat wonder, is, I think, as close to a villain as you can get right now in politics. This is a woman who is, she may have broken the record for most lies at that debate last night. And to say things that were egregiously false, had been fact-checked by even left-wing outlets, had been completely debunked for years, yet she's repeating it, trying to fool and trick undecided voters into voting for her based on lies. I don't know, in a political sense, where we're not talking about violence, I don't know if it gets more villainous than that. So I guess you have a decision to make. Are you going to play the role of hero? And are you going to vote against her? And are you going to show up? And are you, yes, going to mail in your ballot? The Democrats have an edge on that, folks. They do. I'm actually working on a local story, which may be a very, very big deal right here in Indiana with potential voter fraud. Stay tuned to this program because it could be real ugly. But you better mail in those ballots. Get it in now. It does a couple of things. One, your vote will be counted. You can see if it's counted. If it's not counted, you can show up on election day. So you got 2 chances now at that point, right? If it was counted, you're all good. It also allows candidates in tightly contested races, they can see that you voted, so they can focus their attention and their money on people who haven't voted and maybe get more people out to vote for them, taking you off of the board. If you've already cast your ballot, folks, you're not going to get any of those mailers. You're not going to get people knocking on your door asking for your vote because they will see that you've already voted. They won't see who you voted for, but they will see that you've already voted. This is something you need to embrace. We can fix the system when we get the opportunity to fix the system. But right now, we have to play by the rules that are set in motion. It's not the battlefield we want, but that is where the battlefield is, and you have to fight that fight where it is. You can't pick and choose. And I've said this for years. Other people are saying it louder now. You have got to do what is necessary to win. It's okay to disagree with it, but to be stubborn and say, well, I'm not going to do it, and then looking at all of the previous elections here, going back into the Obama era, where there have been anomalies and errors and glitches and all of that on election day, are you willing to risk your vote not getting counted? Because that's what you're doing. In Pennsylvania, I think Republicans have had, the GOP has had an 85% surge in mail-in ballot requests in Pennsylvania. And there's some activists in Pennsylvania that are doing really, really good work there. Pennsylvania's in play, more so than, I'm more confident that it's in play than I have been in previous elections, that's for sure. I want to remind everybody that after ballot harvesting was legalized in California, there's a very red congressional district that went blue, and Republicans said we'll never win in California ever again. After ballot harvesting was legalized in California, we'll never win. Even in this red district, we lost. There's no way for us to win. The Democrats are just too good at this. Do you know what happened? The Republican Party took 2 years. They built a game plan. They obeyed the law, and they did what the Democrats were doing, and they took that district back, and they gained more seats in other districts. Why? Not because they like the idea of ballot harvesting, but because ballot harvesting was the law, and they played the game that they had to play to win. And as a result, they turned certain defeat for the rest of the country's existence into not just a victory, but an expansion of seats for the Republican Party. I'm asking you to do that now. You've got all of these stories out there coming out of, Kansas and everywhere else. They're saying, the Postal Service is all jacked up. There's this whole thing with the delivery company. Everything is a big issue with them right now. You already know the mail system is untrustworthy. Do what you can to get your vote in as soon as possible. And I'm saying this as somebody who has always opposed it, because this is where the battlefield is now. And you have to do what is necessary to win. If you don't, you will lose. So it's really your choice. And we can play the game that we played under Obama and say that, Obama's second term can't be that bad, and it'll give rise to a Phoenix and everything else. Well, his second term was awful. His second term continues to dictate the direction of this country. Obama's second term has been so damaging to us that most of the awful, horrible things that he has done in his administration have not been reversed and are irreversible. So I'm asking you to embrace something that goes against the very fiber of what most of you believe, and that is to put your vote in as soon as you can. Because that's the only way you're going to be able to stay in this fight. Got more coming up. You're tuned into The Burning Truth. And good afternoon. Thank you for tuning into The Burning Truth. I am your host, Casey Hendrickson. All right. There is so much happening. Good Lord. Been really busy since I've been back. I haven't had a moment to breathe. Have you had a moment to breathe since I've been back? I feel like your workload increased too. Like the moment I got back, it's just been kind of insane. I mean, fun, but a little insane, trying to find time for the kiddos and all of that other stuff. On September 17th, ladies and gentlemen, I am going to be a part of an event, and if you are interested, I would encourage you to go to Indiana Call to Action. Well, I should say incalltoaction.com. This Indiana Call to Actions page. You've been with me for how many months now? 5 or 6 months? You've heard me mention them how many times? Lots. Apparently, I've been hiding them from all of you. Oh my God. I don't work for them either, but I digress. So, there is going to be an event that I think that you might find pretty darned interesting. So, they're going to have a legislative impact on America event. And I would encourage you to come check this out. incalltoaction.com. September 17th, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Now, this is going to be at the Ethos Innovation Center, which is in Elkhart, Indiana. Heritage Action is going to be sending out Laura Current, and she's going to be addressing the state and federal legislation, the dangers of the Chinese Communist Party influence on farmland, ensuring grid reliability in Indiana, and all of that other stuff. So we encourage you to go ahead and go get tickets to that now. You can go to incalltoaction.com. I will be there. And Laura's great, by the way. If you know Laura, then you know that it's not Laura from MNC's morning show, but Laura Current from Heritage Action. She's going to be there. She's fantastic. You should follow her on social media as well. But this is September 17th at 6 p.m. Okay, it's going to be at Ethos Innovation Center. It was going to be at Judea Creek, but the fire obviously has changed the location and the venue. So it'll be at Ethos in Elkhart, Indiana. So if you're interested in the overall of all of this, I mean, this is going to be really good stuff. Power grid stuff, electric integrity, Chinese Communist Party stuff. We actually have an update on the Chinese Communist Party and the state of Indiana tomorrow because there's been a major development in that this week. So we'll talk about that tomorrow. And would encourage you to go to incalltoaction.com. Go ahead and get your tickets there. It's a great event, great organization that puts on events like this, brings in speakers where you can learn a lot more about this stuff. And stay tuned with some other stuff that's going to be happening as well in the community, particularly with 2025 stuff and everything else, since it keeps coming up in the election in spite of Donald Trump saying that he has nothing to do with it. So we'll be interesting things happening soon. So if you go to btmedia.news, sign up for my newsletter, you will probably get a good chunk of that in the near future. If you there's kind of a discussion, I don't know, maybe it'll come up later in the week. There's kind of a discussion about whether or not Trump should do another debate. And if he does, I think he needs to stick to his guns about who is the moderator for that. Because right now he says it's up in the air, and you can't do another ABC thing. What ABC did was dishonorable and disgusting. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. So if he's going to do another debate, he's got to do it with a neutral playing ground, if you will, because this type of stuff can't happen again. Have a great night, ladies and gentlemen. We'll see you tomorrow. Don't forget btmedia.news.
Podcasts by Federated Media.